What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Podcast News Award winner and 2018 Innovation Award winner, given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association, and also once a month. I host the only online broadcast for dads and fathers that is sponsored by Dove Men Care, and it's also co-sponsored by Dad Central. And one other thing, I'm also the chairman of the board for the Global Food and Drink Initiative, and that's a multimedia nonprofit that does exposure of Blacks in food, wine, and travel throughout the diaspora. So as always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. It's Sunday afternoon, March 7th, broadcasting live, and most Sunday afternoons at 5 p.m. I host Black Canada Talking. If you want to know what it's all about, I'm going to tell you right now. It's a live online event that provides Black Canadians the opportunity to give their ideas and takes and POVs on stories that are of importance to them. And we also showcase Black Canadians, which we're going to be doing today. Our guest on today's conversation is Mr. Francis Jeffers. And let me put it out right now. Most of the time, when I ask them to send me their bio, it's not too bad. I could spend 15, 20 minutes going through Francis Jeffers' bio, but I'm going to give you a shortened version, but it just tells you he has done a lot of incredible things for the Black Canadian community in the GTA, and I'm most sure around the world, and also Blacks around the world and Blacks wherever they are. Let's give a little shortened version. He was a graduate of the University of Toronto Scarborough College, which I'm a graduate of, with a major in chemistry and political science. I graduated with poli-sci, so we have even more in common. He was employed for 32 years at Sanofi Pasteur in the areas of quality control, planning, materials management, and purchasing. His extracurricular activities are focused in the promotion of youth, development and empowerment, science, technology, and engineering with the African Canadian community and low-income communities. He is the founder and past executive director for Visions of Science Network for Learning. That organization is an initiative focused on the promotion of science, technology, and engineering to the African Canadian community, with a special emphasis on stimulating young people to view the field of science and technology as a visible career option. He's also the founder and curator and executive director of the Canadian Multicultural Inventors Museum. And that organization is a federally registered nonprofit organization, social innovation organization based in Toronto. Their mandate is to educate and increase the public's knowledge, understanding, and appreciation of inventions by individuals from the diverse multicultural communities that make up Canada by collecting, assembling, and exhibiting their inventions to the general public through the Traveling Inventions Museum. Now, that's the short version. Not going to hit the long version today because we'd be here for a while, but that's a good thing. So I'd like to welcome for the first time, and not the last time on the Dr. Vibe Show, though we have known each other for many years. We've never done this before. Mr. Francis Jeffers. How are you, sir?
I am fantastic. It's a good day to be alive.
It's a great day to be alive.
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
going on today?
It's been an amazing day. I started this morning moderating giving a welcome at a STEM conference for youth
Yeah.
in the Waterloo area, working with the Canadian Caribbean Waterloo organization and another STEM organization called Brainstem Alliance.
Okay.
We had like 600 kids today,
How
from
many?
600 kids from elementary to high school, doing fun STEM
Whoa.
experiments, and also have it be culturally relevant in that all the experiments are related to innovations by people of African descent. Um, and then I also moderated a vaccine um, hesitancy uh, seminar looking at the issues related to vaccine uptake within the African Canadian community. We had three experts from the community, scientists, giving their expertise in the area of vaccines, etc. So it's an amazing time. It's a time of reconstruction, a global reconstruction of the African world, and the opportunity to be part of that and to share that is just fabulous. It's a great time to be alive.
Excellent. Great work as usual. Let's roll back to when you were younger. Where did you get the passion for science from?
Actually, that is a very interesting question because I did not start off with a passion for science. I started off with a passion for um, community development, primarily politics. My dad was a politician. He was a headmaster and educator, but also he was a politician. He was actually in the island of Dominica, the nature island. He was in the first group of black politicians, of local black politicians that were elected in the legislature. So it was an exciting time. I came from a family where politics and community support and development was the essence of who we are. And so, with that, just a total love for Caribbean history and African history. I mean, I had the distinct pleasure of reading at the age 10 the Autobiography of Malcolm X, which actually changed my life and made me move from the position of what a Negro or colored or whatever people say what we were to a person, an African person, being a global African citizen. And that awareness really is what signified my life's journey in terms of what I wanted to do in the Caribbean. But at age 16, I came to Canada, and that changed. And when I went to school, the notion of doing Caribbean history in Canada and having a job, at that point in time, 1972 was not a viable option. So I said, where are their jobs? And they said, well, jobs are in science. So I said, okay, let's do science. So
It was that easy?
it was that easy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Take this course and take it.
But what was cute though, which actually um, really actually ensured that I went in that area was that when I came, I didn't know anybody. Coming from Dominica on November the 4th, which was cold. I couldn't believe that people were actually living in a freezer box. Um, and I figured I need to get to know people. So I got to meet Dr. Akwatu Kente, who was my first friend in Canada, who's still my best friend right now. And he said, I said, but what's happening? Where do I get to meet people? And it just happened that I saw this incredible young lady who was God's gift to mankind. And I thought, obviously there's a God. There's no way, you know what I mean? So I said, well, I'd like to meet this young lady. And they said, well, there's a dance next Friday where you could meet most people. So I came home, told my mother there's a school dance next Friday, and I told her about this, gorgeous young lady I saw who I want to meet. And I think for the rest of the week, I think I practiced my dance steps every night. to start to get really annoying to my mother, because she says, I didn't bring you up to Canada, for you to go dance and party and meet people, I mean, women, that's not your focus, right? A real Dominican mother, right? So when at the dance the Friday night, I thought, I think I was very motivated. I think I was maybe one of the first people at the dance. You know what I mean? And they're doing my moves, doing my lean back and my, whatever. And this young lady came in, and it was like, like in the movies when you see, a man and a woman, and they look at each other, and he's like, they kind of in a slow motion, kind of going towards each other. That's what it felt like. And so, but actually, so she came into the dance, and they're dancing away, and she said to me, "Hi, Francis," and I said, "Hi, how are you doing? Da da da. Good to see you." And she said, "I didn't know you could dance." I looked at her, thought, something's wrong here, right? She's looking at a man who just come from Dominica, the native island of the Caribbean, where rhythm is part of who we are. It's in the DNA. And she asking me and saying she don't know if I could dance. So I said, "But why would you even say that?" She said, "Well, you wear glasses and you're doing science." And
That's a good reason.
and I looked at her and I thought, it reminded me of my Spanish class where it said, "La cabeza es bobo," right? So I thought, here was a very gorgeous young lady, but very, very stupid. How could she look at me and wonder why I could dance? But that was Friday night. But when I went to class on Monday morning and I looked in my class, I was the only black guy doing science in my physics class, in my chemistry class. And I realized that she wasn't stupid. Her
Right.
reality and my reality was not the same. I came from a situation where everybody in the class looked at me,
Right.
and you did whatever you wanted to do. I was the majority culture. I was the majority dynamic, demographic. So her reality was different than mine. So that made me realize, obviously, there's a problem, right? And
Right.
since politics and political development was my community development was my interest of mine, it was really having that kind of discussion with my friends. And when I went to university, there was not a lot of us in STEM classes anyway. So that started my journey doing after school classes for black kids, especially Caribbean kids, doing science, right? So, like, the ancestors, as for a person of African descent, the ancestors and the creator sometimes has plans for you that you didn't realize. And it's a question of whether you have to listen or not. And so, for me, the perspective was being from African, an Afrocentric perspective, was listening to the direction that was being brought to me and saying, look, obviously this is an area that you should go in because there's obviously a need. You know what I mean? So therefore that started my journey, volunteering at the Jamaican Canadian Center, Jamaican Canadian Association in their after school programs, and working with Eva Smith, who's my mentor, who's maybe one of the most influential people in my life. She's my hero. She brought me into volunteering, and also the Black Education Project, which was run by Miss Green. I mean, there were people like icons in the community who were instrumental in my life in setting me up on a path, a path of saying, what is your contribution? How do you want to make your mark? If you were young and you went to a Black Muslim meeting, like, down on College Street, the UNIA Hall, there used to be the Black Muslims to meet there, and then you go into your kind of revolutionary stage, you start looking at various areas or groups that you think that might be interest you. But one of the things that interests me, and also when you go back to the Malcolm X, when you join the Nation of Islam, they'd give you an X, right? And you had to actually do work and show direction and knowledge before they actually give you your name. So that's something I always have put into my life, and I did into my children's life. In almost saying, how are you going to find your X? What is your X? What is going to be your mark? What are you going to do to make a difference? You can talk revolution, you can talk empowerment, you can talk everything, but what are you going to do? The actual steps you're going to do to make your mark, to ensure that you're going to make a contribution. And when you find that X, that's when you actually the process starts of you, taking into action, not just talk, the work that you're going to do in your community. And so the groundings I had in that, and being a child of the 60s, these are the kind of things that make a direction and force you to actually look within and decide, how you're going to live your life and what differences that you're going to make. And it's also leaning on the ancestors. The ancestors are clear. They won't take you wrong. But it's again, if you decide to take the path of working in the liberation of African people and the global reconstruction of the African world, it means that you have to take action and you have to be positive and you have to put out, right? So that's part of my journey. Yeah.
You can't hear. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Okay.
I can hear you now. Yeah.
All right. No, a bit of your journey. Let me ask you, going back in time, was it difficult for you to leave Dominica, and why did you leave Dominica?
Well, it was very difficult for me to leave Dominica because I'm a carnival baby.
Yes.
Anybody who knows me know I love mass, right? And the 4th of November is the 3rd of November is the National Day for Dominica, and on the 4th of November there's always a carnival, and my mother, in her wisdom, decided that the day that I should leave Dominica to come to Canada was on the 4th of
You're
November.
kidding me.
So
That's punishment.
It was punishment, you know what I mean? So I thought this is going to be a long journey to Canada because I'm starting off on the wrong foot. But actually, my dad passed away, and my mother decided to relocate to Canada, and so she thought I should come here with her and stuff like that. I mean, at the time, I was in sixth form in Dominica. I was clearly knew what my path was going to be. My path was going to be finish high school and then go off to University of the West Indies in either Trinidad or Jamaica and get involved in something, come back to Dominica, do education, and then go into politics. I mean, to me, it was a clear pathway, right? Following my dad. But things happen, and things happen for a reason. And coming here on that day, I remember jumping up in a van the last minute before I could absolutely leave first to go to the airport. And I remember that very minute because I can't. If I hear two sticks knock, I'm going to dance, right? So, so bring me that day was really interesting. But I mean, it has been a marvelous journey. It's been. I am very passionate about Canada. I'm passionate about employment. I'm passionate about the history of African Canadian people, and that journey from 1642 to now, and being part of that, and having children who were born on the soil, as they, and watching them, you know, finding their X and starting to make an impact in the work they do. That for me is a journey that is just amazing. You know what I mean? I think I would have done well in Dominica, but this is a new era for me to create a legacy for my children and my grandchildren, which I'm fortunate to have, right? So these kind of opportunities, when they come, you have to take advantage of them. And it's been a great ride for me, being part of Canada. I also worked at Connaught Laboratories, which is a Canadian institution in terms of vaccines, and the fact where Banting and Best and Fitzgerald, invented insulin. So the history of my work in science actually is coming from a very strong tradition of Canadian culture and history and innovation. So to be the intersectionality of these things I've been involved with have been a tremendous aspect of my life. And so when I speak to kids and young people about being Canadian and being an African Canadian, I speak with a voice of pure passion, right? With a clear direction, a clear vision. And I see it manifested in my children and in the work that I've done in Visions of Science and the Canadian Multicultural Inventors Museum. So I'm very fortunate and blessed.
Fantastic. So, with the Visions of Science, where did the original idea come to bring that into fruition? Because I know that's what I know you from first, the Visions of Science. How did that organization start?
Well, it started when the Science Center had a Black History Month event, and where they decided to have music, having some rappers and that kind of stuff. And I have no problem with music because that music is a fundamental part of who I am and part of who my people are. But why is the Science Center being for Black History Month doing something that is about music and not even dealing with the science of music, but just a musical thing? So some people decided that they were going to plan a demonstration there to protest that. I thought I would call the Science Center and inquire what exactly is going on, right? How does that make sense? Because at that time, I was as the president of the African Canadian Heritage Association, which is ACHA, and and they said, well, they didn't have any contacts. That I said, well, okay, well, next year this is not going on, right? Next year you're going to do something related to science. So we decided to have ACHA decided to have a science symposium there where we brought people from the States and Canada to speak about and have hands-on activities that are related to science, right? And coming out of that experience, Dr. Sheila Husbands, who was one of the treasurer of ACHA, and myself were talking about having an organization that's going to do science promotion. And there was Dr. Leighton James from UFT, just a brilliant Dominican scientist and nephrologist. We decided to all work together and come up with an organization that's going to do work. And actually, Sheila Husbands actually came up with the name Visions of Science, and the rest is history. We had to add. There was a Visions of Science organization in Great Britain, so we had to say Visions of Science Network for Learning. But it was an output from the African Canadian Heritage Association. That's the birth of Visions of Science, which today is a very, very successful organization. We were the first Black STEM organization in Canada, and we were like that for a while, And Vision of Science, I did for 25 years, and it started off a lot of it coming out of our pockets, but that's the way if that's the way it starts, and till now that is it's the budget I think is at least maybe close to maybe $1 million, right? But I did that for 25 years, and in 2012 we won the National Award for Science Promotion, which is the top science promotion award in Canada. There's nothing higher, and that for me was a time when for me to decide what to do in my life, because at the same time, one of the things that was fundamental to me was I had to live on the African continent. For me, everything I talk about, everything I do has to be concrete, and the experience I didn't have was living on the continent. And so I remember my second boy, Adam, and myself went off to the first World Cup in South Africa. And I fell in love in South Africa and decided, well, hey, and when I come back, this is where I'm going to live, on the continent. But interestingly enough, at the age of 10, though, I had fell in love with South Africa because there was a propaganda apartheid a newsletter called the South African Digest, which showed just gorgeous pictures of South Africa, and I just fell in love with the pictures of South Africa and the history of South Africa. I mean, at that time, my friends used to laugh at me and say, "Well, you're crazy, you can't go live in South Africa and all that stuff." So I mean, but it was interesting that then coming full circle where my interest to go at the continent at first, like everybody would think of going to West Africa, but then the World Cup ensured that the dream of South Africa became a reality. To go visit, I went to see one soccer game to say I went to a World Cup. Then I got into a car and I drove around the country, right, and realized this is. When I came back, I told my boss, "I'm done. The party is over. I'm going home." You know what I mean? And that was my trip to deciding to go back to live in South Africa. You know what I mean? And again, like I said, if you work for African people, it's a spiritual thing when you work for African people. Okay, when they are at the center of who you are and what you do, and the ancestors and the creator knew what I wanted to do, and they facilitated it. You know what I mean? And so that was an opportunity to go and live and work in South Africa for like 3 years.
Wow. How was that experience, my brother?
It was absolutely marvelous. It was going home in an area where I live just outside Johannesburg, in an area where there's a township, there were around 1 million people. There was absolutely nobody from the Caribbean any close to anywhere I was. I was totally embedded into the culture. I got, interesting experience. I never done anything in fashion or whatever, but I co-owned a hair salon. You know what I mean? And
well, hold on. How did that happen? And why did that happen?
Again, it's how the ancestors work, how the creator works. That was an opportunity of to do something at that salon. And so what I did then was, on a trip back to Toronto, bought a whole bunch of computers and supplies, and came back and then set it up an after school program in the salon for street kids. So we had kids from age 4 to 16. And so they would come in, they would do their homework.
Yeah.
We had a couple of people came volunteer to do the homework.
Yeah.
They would get computer time, and then we go into the street, and I teach them how to dance reggae and soca. You know what I mean? And
okay,
it was just fabulous.
So there better be pictures of this that I can see one day.
No pictures, that wasn't allowed.
Oh, stop the show. Oh, you robbed me like that.
But it was, and just share the kids. So the collective average of the kids was maybe 35%. A lot of the kids supposedly weren't doing well in school. Well, in 1 year, the collective average was 75%, right? The three kids who were in high school ran for the student council, and they came 1, 2, 3. Right?
Okay.
And that just inspired the rest of the kids, right? And the kids actually went to school formally because they have to go to school, but their interest was coming back later on to the salon. And interestingly enough, in South Africa where I was, you didn't get black dolls. So I brought down black dolls. And when the first time that some kids came to the salon, some little kids, babies came to the salon, and I gave them a black doll to hold, they cried. You know what I mean? And they were scared, right? And I had to kind of coach them to play the dolls and stuff like that. Eventually, they got accustomed to playing the dolls and all that kind of stuff. And there was one little girl that I think it must have been a year afterwards that she got started to play the black doll. Her mother when it was her birthday, and her mother bought her a doll, but bought her a white doll. And she said she doesn't want the white doll. The mother said, "Why? It's just a doll." She says, "No, she wants a doll like she finds at the salon." And the mother said, "Well, yeah, but when you go there, you can pay that doll, but here's this doll." Huh. So the child didn't say anything, but before she went to bed, when the mother wasn't looking, she took the doll and then put it in the garbage. Jeez. Now, a bit of a drastic example there, but that was a question of this child coming home and realizing that she is pretty. She is pretty. She is valued as an African person. And those kind of experiences is what touched me and guaranteed that whatever I do is really, because I believe in servant leadership.
Yes.
So I believe in that, this is what I do. When people ask me what I say I'm a servant of African people. That is what I've been pointed to do.
I love that. A servant of African people. I love it. Francis, when you started Visions of Science, what was the reaction in the Black community and in the non-Black community?
The first time I wrote a letter, I once said in the mother company, But there were some brothers and sisters who worked at that company. And I sent them a letter saying that we're starting this organization and we'd like some support. One of the brothers wrote me back a letter that said that wouldn't work. And it's a program only for black kids. And it's most unfortunate, but somehow I lost that letter. Because when I got that letter, then I knew then exactly what I was going to do. Don't tell me something for African people is not going to work. That makes no sense. It's not historical, it's not scientific, it doesn't make any sense, right? And there's nothing that we can do. And that made me so determined that we're going to have this organization. And it's going to be vibrant and it's going to work. I have to say that one thing within the STEM community is that STEM organizations tend to support one another. How I built Vision of Science was with the help of the mainstream communities, because we didn't have a lot of money, we had a lot of passion, but what we were able to do though is take advantage of the fact that various STEM organizations all were willing at the time to try to do something with in terms of diversity, and they wanted to do something with the black community. They didn't have any programs that deal with that, the black community, but through Visions they were able then to claim that they are involved with the black community. And so we facilitated them by bringing some of their programming into the community. So we and again, the heads of the two largest STEM organizations in Canada, which is Actua and Let's Talk Science, didn't give me any money, but what they did was advocated on our behalf on the back end that we could get some federal funding to start to do some work for Vision of Science. And the other crucial person who I have total respect for is Ms. Chambers, who was the minister in the Liberal government and who was the MP in my riding, MPP in the riding. And Ms. Chambers was just absolutely amazing. There was a grant where they were going to give grants to the community colleges to do and university to do STEM education. And she just called, I was in her office. She called that Ministry of Innovation and said, you're going to give Visions of Science some money. One call.
Wow.
That right there. And we got $90,000 right
Whoa.
there. That programming.
Man, can I have friends that just make a call and I get $90,000?
And so, but again, it's the kind of stuff that when things have to happen, she was in the right place at the right time for us, and she made it happen, and that ensured that we could get to do our work, expand our programming, to have numerous science clubs in the Toronto community housing areas. We wanted to go with the areas that were most marginalized, and on Saturdays for 2 hours, from 11 to 1, we had young kids, in grade 4 to grade 8, doing hands-on science programming. And one of the things that we did, which no other science club did in Canada, was that whenever you did an experiment, you had them to research somebody who looks like you. I don't care what you look like, who looks like you, who's working in that particular discipline, and that you have to put that as part of your report. Not one science organization I know in North America actually did that. Okay, and what that mean was that the whole idea is that you had to see yourself in the science. And you see, before in the old days in STEM, if you ask kids what they want, what does a scientist look like, they tell you it looks like Einstein, right? And how actually all STEM organizations actually graded themselves actually is being able to change that mindset. That a scientist looks like you. You can be a scientist. So it was, so you could be, I don't care what you are, you could be a gay, Muslim, female, and you could be a microbiologist, you could be whatever. If you do the research, that you can find someone who looks like you. And so therefore, it made that connection between the science and the thing. And that is how then, when we started our annual symposium, which ran for 19 years at the University of Toronto, and And it still stands as maybe the largest science symposium for kids that in Canada. Because we used to have 900 students on a Friday and 600 people from the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
We had no Instagram and Facebook and everything. We went from place to place and just handed out flyers and connected organizations and talk on every single Black radio show that there is and come out. And so we're talking about 2,200 people. Right now, if you get an organization get 200 people, 300 people for an event, I mean, they're happy, right? But at that time, if I got 200 people, that's a disaster. You know what I mean? My thing was that if we're going to come out and we're going to have fun in science, right? And for 19 straight years,
Mm.
right now, as somebody who's, who will be a senior, an official senior in a few in a few weeks' time. Sometimes I meet young people, you know what I mean, who says, "Hi, Mr. Jeffers, how are you? Do you remember me?" I'm saying, thinking, "Okay, old age is kicking in there. I'm not remembering who that is." But they came to the symposium, or their mother took them to the symposium, and right now they're, I don't know, they could be a biochemist, they could be in technology, they have their doctorate, there's or they went into the skilled trades. I mean, like people, because we brought scientists from all over. Again, just looking at ways of how we engage. You see yourself in the science, and that's where I got involved with Lady Salah Sabez, who again, this is an extremely interesting way of how things work when you're being guided. Um, I heard about her at the Black Inventors Museum, and I said, "Oh, that's fabulous." She had the only Black Inventors Museum traveling in the States. And so for 7 years, we brought her up here, and it cost a penny to bring her up here. And then afterward, I said, Lady Sala, we need to do something. First of all, the exhibit is primarily African American. Can we have a collaboration where then I can add Black Canadian content, Black Caribbean content, British content, etc. And she said yes. And so we started to work on it, and so we said, okay, let's get an agreement and let's drop a contract and all that kind of stuff because she had an organization in the States. And Lady Salah says, "Oh, she's going to leave the exhibit here." So this is this, so this our exhibit, our symposium used to be in May. But I
Yeah.
said, but Salah, I mean, why would you leave it here? I mean, because we haven't signed any documents and everything like that. You should take the document, take it with you, etc., and we'll work things out. When she left the exhibit here, was determined that she's leaving the exhibit here. 6 months later, Lady Salah passed away.
Oh,
What I found out, though, that her organization in the States was dysfunctional. There was a lot of issues on the board.
right.
And basically, what she did was really just handed me the exhibit
Ooh.
because she was not going to go back to that exhibit there. She knew what was going on the board. And, you know,
Wow.
so again, I did not choose to get involved with this exhibit. That was placed in my hand, and I had no other choice but to follow her work. I mean, that is when, again, it's a question of being led, right? So it's not none of this stuff. I didn't create any of this stuff.
Mm.
This is what is happening. I was chosen to do that, and that's what it is, and that's where I go. You know what I
Wow.
mean?
How long has the Vision's been going on now?
The visions. Oh, visions is going. Visions must be going on 30 plus years.
Wow.
Because I went. Yeah,
You know
maybe
when
like no 28,
you
29 years,
okay,
28,
because
29
when
years.
Francis is looking up in the sky, you know it's been a
It's
while.
been a while, and and now it is the largest. Well, even when I left, it was the largest Black STEM organization in Canada, and one time the only one that was funded very well.
That's right.
Eventually, there's legacy, Imhotep's legacy in Nova Scotia, out of Dalhousie University, was created, and they got federal money for a while. But but they didn't really need federal money because they're pretty well funded by that housing.
Right.
But now, I mean, it's with a lot of pride now that there's a lot of STEM organizations that, for some of the people I've mentored and some people have been supported. So there's Brain STEM Alliance, there is STEM Rising STEM, there's technology, the Innovation Technology Organization. There's around three or four, and I know all the people now who are involved in all of these STEM organizations. There's only one new organization which I didn't know about. I just found out about the other day, and so but it was nice to see that, you know what I mean, that organizations starting out there. And now, so we have around 4 or 5, and there's the work that Tamara is doing with TechSpot and on the technology side. So it is, when you look at the STEM field now, and there's Black Boys in Code,
Yes.
it's nice starting to see organizations springing up just doing work in the STEM area. And it's just fantastic to see that now, right? You know what I mean? Taking their rightful place, doing Black Boys in STEM is national. I mean, it's fabulous to see that, right? I mean, and I did there were days when we were the only organization pushing science, you know. And sometimes some people in the community just to say, "Oh, but oh, look, the STEM boy, the STEM man," you know what I mean? You know what I mean? And you know, so it was interesting times, right? I mean, it's fun to look back at that, and I think the future is in good hands. I mean, especially what has happened over the last while with the situation in Floyd's murder and the issues with Black Lives Matter, etc. And that there's more and more people. There's so much more women in STEM now. There's just a lot of work being done. There's some quality program in our community. There's nothing that our community doesn't have. You know, I mean, everything we need, we have. The question is just, we just have to build them. And we have to invest in them. So they don't have to beg for money outside. I beg most of my time for money outside my community. And that was one disappointment that I had, that I
Yes.
begged outside of my community for money.
So, with all the years of work you've done with the visions, is it, obviously it's not where you want it to be, but at least it's not where it used to be. People are giving it more recognition, correct?
I mean, Visions is doing really well. Again, I come back to that central theme. So when I decided to go to South Africa, I needed somebody. I wanted a Black person to run Visions, right? I had two very solid, and I mean, I love them to death. Two South Asians who will help me a lot with Visions, in terms of helping Visions grow. And plus, there was Visions in Green. It's Elliot who helped with that, right? So people who put in, and I wanted the leadership to stay Black, because that's fundamentally important, and I didn't have anybody who I could turn to. I wanted somebody who's a scientist, etc. And I was down. We had a symposium at Ryerson, and somebody came and told me that, oh, there's this young person who came to volunteer there, and she has a PhD from. She's working on a PhD from University of Toronto, Mississauga.
Okay.
So I said, oh, I'd love to meet her. So I suddenly contacted her, and then she came and we met. And so I said, so what are you doing? She said, oh, well, where are you from? Da da da. She's from Guinean ancestry, and she lived in Toronto housing. She grew up in Toronto housing. I said, that's fabulous. So I said to her, you're going to run Visions of Science. And she looked at me like I was crazy. She said, what do you mean I'm going to run Visions? I said, yeah, because I want somebody to head Visions of Science, and you're going to head Visions of Science. She said, but you don't even know me. You don't know anything about me, whatever. I said, I don't know. I know enough, actually. And so she said, so I don't know, what do you want me to do? I said, well, why don't you take a couple of weeks, think about it, and then we'll meet. We'll meet at a coffee shop and da da da. So her name was Eugenia Duodu. And 2 or 3 weeks later, Eugenia and I met. And I said, what did you decide? Because I was a bit anxious, because my whole goal is to go to the continent. and no vision's good hands, because I know the board is going to stay to there to support the person. And she said, okay, she'll do it. And I said, voila, it's yours. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to be on the board.
Mm.
You have the president, Dr. Vincent Class. You have a board. You have two great workers. I'm going to work you, with you, and that's it. I don't want to be at a board meeting where you turn when a question is asked, and you're going to turn around and look to see whether I approve or not. No, it's yours. You're the future. That's it. I'm done.
Wow.
Because one of the issues that is important is, community organizations, that we have to have succession planning. We have to
Talk
pass
to it.
over.
Talk to it. Speak it, Francis. Tell us. Talk about that. Bring it.
You have to have succession planning. You have to pass. You can't ask and pat kids, young people on their back and say, go ahead and get your education and everything, and then after then you won't pass on the leadership of the organizations to them, especially when the organizations are solid, well built. You need to then give them leadership, and you're there to help them. You're there to, it's almost like a welfare system. You're there to catch them if they fall, but they're not going to fall. They're well equipped. They understand the society that they live in. They grew up in the society. They understand the dynamics of it. They are better suited than you in order to lead that organization, right?
Right.
And I said, this is us. You go for it. And Eugenia has done an incredible job. Eugenia is one of the most sought after speakers and people in the world of STEM in Canada. You know, nowadays, I remember before I'd go around and people say, "Oh, Mr. Jeffrey, you started Vision of Science." Now they say, "Oh, so you're the person who Eugenia took over from." You know, so, but again, that's how life is. I mean, she's done an amazing job with it. She brought she took it to another level completely, and that is what happens. Things evolve, things change, they get better. One of my goals when I was a youngster, I had an amazing dad.
Mm.
One of my goals was to be a better dad than my dad, right? And I accomplished that. And what I said to my boys is that they have to be better dads than me, and they
Yeah.
look like they will be. That is what has to happen for the next generation. They have to improve on, they need to assess, they need to review and improve and bring their skill sets, the totality of who they are, to the task at hand, so that it's constant improvement all the way along. That's just a
Mm.
scientific process. It doesn't matter whether it's parenting, it doesn't matter what it is. It's the evolution and people getting better. There were days when it took me, I don't know how long it took, maybe it took 15 seconds for somebody to run the 100 meters. Then after somebody comes along eventually and does it under 10 seconds, and we say, rah, then Bolt comes along and just destroys everything. It's evolution, right?
Mm.
It's things are happening, things improve. We have better techniques, we have better ways of training, we have better ways of developing skills. And so therefore you take all of that together and then you put it together and you empower young people to find the spaces to provide the leadership so that they move on and take us to the next level. And we're seeing doing that. And especially female leadership. You know what I mean? If you just look at the COVID experience right now, when you look at the countries that did well with COVID, they were primarily led by women.
Yep. Absolutely.
All white men don't have the skills to cut it anymore. All black men don't have the skills to cut it anymore. It's going to be young black men and it's going to be young men, young women taking us forward, because we can't. The old God no longer understands the world. They no longer have the vision that allows them, the expansive vision to allow them to guide they can provide some guidance, but they can't lead. They no longer have the skill sets to lead us. They don't, because they're rooted in structures that are not progressive and not going to bring us where we want. So we have to have female leadership, and young leadership that's going to take us to the next level. They understand the future is their future, so they have to own it.
If they don't do that, what's going to happen if we don't have the succession plan? Because last year was a tough year for a lot of nonprofit agencies in the Black community. What keeps your organization still going?
Passion. I work with passion. I don't understand anything else other than passion. And also the fact that there is what I can say. I spoke at a conference last week, Science Technology Awareness Conference, and they said, "What is your success in 2020?" And I said, CMI was extremely successful in science in 2020, but we were broke. we had, our work is on a fee for service. We had no income from February after February of 2020, Black History Month. We had no income from after the first week of March to the last weekend of January. But what we had was passion. What we had was faith in Canadians. The fact that after the experience of the Black Lives Matter and that what that brought about in terms of people's response, people wanted to contribute. When if the double whammy of COVID, people were home. They wanted to be useful. That, with their skill sets, was a wicked combination of being able to provide, as if over 160 people came and contributed to CMIM in creating content for us and helping us to pivot from a in-person exhibit to the point where we can provide virtual presentations and actually look at the future. Things that I thought that we would get into the fall of 2022, we started to do this year. And that was Canadians of all backgrounds, every single diverse person we have in our organization came through with the goal of bringing diversity into the classroom, right, where everybody matters, right? There mightn't be a lot of students from Tibet. There mightn't be a lot of students, or it might be a big Roma community, but they're growing communities. Their voice have to be heard, right? The kids have to see themselves in the science. So there's African kids, so there's anybody. This is the Canada that we're going to demand, one that is inclusive and diverse and inclusive, and where every Canadian has the right to an education, and see themselves in the STEM, and so that they can look out a future in going confidently forward in terms of who they are as a Canadian. That's the dream that we have. And we will make it. There's no way that we won't, right? Because the things have aligned, and again, that is where things happen. Sometimes out of what might seem chaos or despair or pain comes opportunities, right? So this year, we're going to be launching our ebooks, a series of ebooks showing the contributions of various peoples. What I'm very excited about, we'll have 2 books about African innovators, but we'll also have a book about Indigenous innovators. The Canadian Multicultural Inventors Museum is the only organization in North America that has a traveling exhibit that shows the contributions of Indigenous peoples. There is none. Again, that's the honor and privilege you have to me as a person of African descent, because you come from the cradle of humanity and civilization, and then after combine that with the opportunities as an African person to move forward and work and with everybody and bring about and vision a Canada that where everybody plays a role. That's exciting, right? And to be part of that is an honor and a privilege, and I appreciate that. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I don't know if we have a few more minutes, because I know we've taken up most of the time on this conversation talking about divisions. Do you want to talk a little bit about the museum?
The museum is, again, which came out of Visions and came out of the work that we do, because we worked in, even though you were working in the communities we worked to, were all diverse anyway. The Canadian Multicultural Inventors Museum is being, we're going in that direction of social innovation. The idea is to use that base as a way to get involved in all in areas where we're going to make a difference in people's life, where Canadians of all backgrounds will see themselves, be it in the skill trades, be it in STEM, where we can document the contributions of various people and get it in the hands of teachers in the grade 4 to grade 8 space, because we want to hit kids early, so that they can have positive view. What we want is that every teacher has access to information that brings diversity into the room. So it could be Tamil month in January, it could be Black History Month in February, it could be Sikh month, it could be Women's Month, it could be South Asian month, Italian, or whatever. LGBTQ, people with disabilities. We have the only exhibit in North America that shows the contributions of people with disabilities. Again, it's having books showing all of that. We have the only traveling exhibit in North America about LGBTQ community and their contributions to innovation. We had the honor in November of having International LGBTQ STEM Day, and showed the contributions of people and deal about the fact that, regardless of your background as a Canadian, be it sexuality, gender, whatever, there is a place for you in Canada. There's opportunities to see yourself in STEM. There's opportunities we have to make sure that there's opportunities for your growth, for your passion, because STEM is important. Less than 5% of people of African descent go into STEM. Less than 1% of Indigenous people go into STEM. These are fundamentally ridiculous stats. We have to make those kind of changes. And so what we ask to your viewers, those of them who are involved in any aspect of STEM and they want to contribute, come and join us. Come and join us. Help us write the research information that's going to go out there and empower people. Next year, our exhibits will not only will there be exhibits showing our minimum number of innovators we show for any exhibit is 100 innovators, but we'll also have a robot. It's going to be a gamified exhibit, and we'll also have a robot. So that when we go to a school, we're talking about the future of the past of innovation, or the innovators of the past, going back to mother country, whether that is, be it the Indus Valley civilization, be it Kemet, be in ancient China, be in Mesopotamia, for the indigenous people going all the way back, showing their contributions to the present day, showing them innovators for the future. And also embedded in that is the technology that shows them the future of information technology and robotics, right?
Right.
So we'll be taking a robot. No other organization does that. We'll be doing that. When we're going to, it'll be a total experience. And we'll be able to do presentations from here. I don't care if somebody in Japan wants to have, we can do that. This last February, our K-3 virtual presentations was coming from Aruba.
What?
You know what I mean? We're doing things that technology allows us to do, to reach out to people and to share with people, because there's nothing going to stop us.
So, Francis, let me ask, how has the pandemic impacted what these organizations do? It sounds that there's been an opportunity to spread the message wider.
Absolutely. The fact that we can do virtual things virtually means that we can connect with everybody. I was thinking before, there's one year I thought, I'd like to be able to go to Nunavut because there's a Black community out there to the Black History Month event.
Yeah.
But what I hope next is that, we can just connect with them and give them a virtual exhibit, and etc. and make those kind of connections so that that the world is going to get closer and smaller. And
yes,
what we want to gear up to as an organization is to be able to go right across Canada and eventually go to the States and the Caribbean, and then we have to go to the continent, right? One of the important things in life is for us to be able to, as diasporic people, is for us to be able to reverse the Middle Passage, not just in terms of visiting, but in terms of the work that we do. So as we share, because Africa is going to be the most exciting place to be. And there's the youngest population in terms of a continent. It has all the resources. The reconstruction of the African world is real. It's going to happen. 500 years of oppression cannot stop the people who have been alive for 60,000 years. That, I mean, I don't even understand that concept when people talk about, we either people say, well, we've been down all this time. All this time where?
Mm.
White supremacy is only 1,000 years old. We're 60,000 years old. We ran things didn't run us. So it's just reconstructing, coming back. Life is cyclic. Every civilization went up and down, right? That's how life is. But we have to have the means of, as Marx says, you have to be able to control the means of production
Control the narrative.
and you control the narrative. If you don't do that, then that is a choice that you're making, which will not then allow you to reconstruct your world, right? So therefore, then you have to ensure then that you have the skill sets in order that you can bring back the continent and the diaspora and its diasporic people to the level that they should be. The future is amazing.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. You've been doing this a long time. Is this time the best time for it to get to the next level in your journey?
This is the best time for African people within the last 1,000 years.
Wow,
Right?
that's
But within the last 1,000 years, right? We had our glory days, but within the last 1,000 years, this is the best time to be a person of African descent. The combination of the power of the melanin, the combination of who we are, the skill sets that we have, our presence in the diaspora, that the fact that we're not going anywhere, we're going to bring worlds together, means that we have opportunities, right? We have to have a situation where our brothers and sisters in South America and Central America, that they don't have to, that we can use simultaneous translations, etc., where we work seamlessly in terms of their liberation and our liberation. It's a question of the meeting of the minds and the will and the political power and putting our resources together. And for those of us, for the parts of the community who are working on the entrepreneurship and having the economic strength, those combinations is what's going to make us together. So we just have work to do, and the future is clear. Our kids are bright, they're in a precarious situation right now, coming out of COVID. For a good 35% of our kids who are not in good situations, the chances are they will fall back 2 years in terms of the academic situation. We have to find an innovative way as a community to deal with that issue. I think there's some ideas. I think that we can do that. We have to decide, that we need to invest in our community, not just other people, but ourselves, so that we reduce that gap. We can't have the 2 years that's detrimental to some of our community, but we also have bright lights. We have our talent, like the boy talks about the talented 10th. We have our talented 10th. We got to make sure that they are ready for the leadership, right? And so that we can then really galvanize and get everybody involved in this whole process. I just think it's an exciting time. Everybody just have to put on their hat, put on their passion, ensure that their spirituality is linked to their reality, and just move forward.
Well, before we close out, I just want to get our producer, to put up the different websites. So if you could put up the Multicultural Inventor Museum's website, so for those who are watching, they can see what it looks like. So if our producer can get that up, and then let's see if he'll be able to do that for us. Okay. Maybe we can get the Visions of Science site up.
So please support Visions of Science, VOSNL.org. Please support the Canadian Multicultural Inventors Museum.
Okay, there we go. There's
Multicultural Museums. Voila, there's Visions.
So that's what
that's what it looks like. People coming together to inspire, elevate, empower. And much respect to Eugenia as she leads Visions of Science forward. And it's just in good hands. Right?
Beautiful.
Good hands. And I'm really proud of Visions and the work it's done and the work it'll continue to do. And then we have the Canadian Multicultural Inventors Museum, which is multiculturalmuseums.org, an organization that I think in 2 years' time should be national.
Wow.
and decide how we head to the States as we do more and link up. I want to be able to go back onto the continent in South Africa and start or work there. There's unfinished business there.
Francis, where do you get the energy from?
I have grandchildren. The same legacy that my dad left for me. It's the same legacy I want to leave for them.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
They drive me. I mean, I am proud. I am blessed. I have my son, Dr. Chike Jeffers, who's one of two African Canadian born philosophers and doing really well in this field.
Actually, a great question is from the audience. Sarah Yango, wonderful supporter from Ottawa. She asked, is there a Black Inventors Month the way that there is a Black Music Month?
There is various STEM weeks. There's Chemistry Month. And there is a Black Family Technology Week in the States.
But nothing here.
And that's during February. But in here, Visions actually, when I was there, we did some Black Family Technology Week activities here and actually in Montreal. But I think what we're doing right now is integrating into all the various disciplines in terms of Chemistry Week, National Science Week, and all of that kind of stuff, and push the diversity into those weeks so that therefore we're covering. Because a lot of things were kind of in February, and basically you got to make sure that we're visible right through the year. You know what I mean? Not just everyone gets excited in February and then after it drops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So but yeah. But the future is in good hands, and we have tremendous talent in Canada, and I'm excited. I'm pretty much excited.
Well, folks, here's someone who has been pushing for a long time, and he ain't stopping. His grandchildren won't let him stop pushing.
No.
But he also says the future looks bright. And unlike what other people may say, he isn't accepting it. He's saying the future looks bright. He's pushing. He has succession planning in place. He has handed some of his stuff over to others. And he says, yes, let's push.
I only have 6 more years running the same I am. So I have to make it work.
You have 60 years. Don't give me no 6 years business.
I'll be 71 6 years from now, and at that time I want to just travel. Right?
Well,
so I'm done.
You're done.
Yeah,
6 more years.
6 more years and I'm done.
Okay, so let's gonna use this phrase. What is your vision that you'd like to see in 6 years?
A global organization.
Why am I not doubting you? I'm not doubting you.
That I am going to push so hard. At 71, then I'm going to bow out. Somebody's going to come. Somebody's going to take it over, and I'll support them and give them all the props. You know what I mean? But I've been to every continent so far except Antarctica. I'm not sure I will do it. But there's a whole lot of places I want to go. I mean, I want to visit and meet people from the diasporic people, African people, and share with other peoples. Right? I want to just enjoy that. You know what I mean? So, good.
Next time I go to Yellowknife, you got to come with me.
Yeah, man, I'll come check it out.
That was quite a trip.
Yeah. I haven't been up north.
No, it's one of the things that I'll never forget. There is a huge Somali population in Yellowknife.
I can imagine.
It was quite a trip, but you know what, Francis? And I just got a producer to put Francis' contact information at the bottom of the screen before we get going. Yes, there you go. Multicultural museums at gmail.com. That's the best way to reach him.
Yeah, you got 416-839-2442. 416-839-2442. Or just Google me.
He's Googleicious.
Yes.
He's Googleicious for 6 more years.
Yes.
I'm Dr. Vibe, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Also, once a month, I'd like to tell you that I host the only program online in the world for dads and fathers that is sponsored by Dove Men Care. It's also sponsored by Dad Central Canada's National Father Organization. Also in the board chair for an organization called the Global Food and Drink Initiative. It's a multimedia nonprofit that's in place to showcase and highlight Blacks in food, wine, and travel who are part of the diaspora. Like to thank Francis. Also like to thank many people who watch us live on the replay or listen to it on the replay, especially a big thanks to Sarah Yango. As always, thank you, Sarah. Thank you for what you have done, what you are doing, and what you will be doing for Blacks around the world. It's appreciated, not taken for granted. And loving the profile pictures you're putting up on Facebook, by the way, especially the soccer one. We'll have to talk about that offline. Best way to get in contact with me is at my website, thedrvibeshow.com. As always, I like to close out. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions. Aim bigger. Aim better. Aim higher. Aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. And also remember to give yourself grace. And thanks to BIA Media for the production. God bless. Peace be well. Keep the faith and walk good.